Discovered, poor farmer's heartwarming ACT rescued a trapped virgin, transforming lives forever. The storm hit without warning, dark clouds rolling in like a tidal wave over the sun-drenched fields of Miller's farm. Jacob Miller, a 28-year-old farmer, watched helplessly as the skies turned to a blanket of swirling gray. Days like these reminded him of his father, who had taught him the value of hard work, resilience, and community. Losing him a year prior had left an unfillable void, a gaping hole in Jacob's soul. Yet, as he tightened the straps of his worn-out boots and steeled himself against the encroaching wind, he knew he had to keep the family farm alive for his younger siblings, for his father's legacy. The winds howled and rattled the barn doors, but Jacob was preoccupied with thoughts of responsibility. Suddenly, a noise interrupted his thoughts. It came from the nearby hiking trail, where a group of locals had begun to gather. Straining to see through the sheets of rain, Jacob noticed a commotion, not ordinary gossip, but urgency. A scream broke through the drumming of rain, sending a tightness into Jacob's chest. Heart racing, he sprinted toward the commotion, the mud squelching underfoot. What he found was a young woman, Sarah, he later learned had slipped and fallen into a ravine. She was stuck, her polished shoes caked with mud, panic etched across her face. In that moment, as torrents of rain cascaded down around them, their worlds collided. Jacob's instincts as a farmer, solid and reliable, kicked in. Despite their differences, a poor farmer with calloused hands and a privileged girl from the wealthier side of town, he couldn't ignore the plea in her green eyes. Scaling the slope, he reached her, his arms pulling her free from the unforgiving constraints of the earth. "Hold on!" he yelled over the wind. Adrenaline surged through him. Their hands clasped tightly, and for that fleeting moment, he became her savior. She gasped as he hoisted her up, breathless and grateful, the reality of life and death fusing them in a way only those who have faced storms could understand. However, as they returned to town, the whispers started. The very faces that had admired Jacob's hard work were now contorted with judgment. There goes Jacob, the farmer, trying to latch onto the rich girl for a ticket out. The words stung like a slap to the face. Sarah, with her carefree laughter and polished ways, became a target to an outsider, a spoiled virgin who didn't belong to their humble community. What was meant to be a life-changing encounter turned sour, leaving Jacob grappling with betrayal and a sense of alienation he'd never experienced before. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jacob felt trapped between two worlds, crushed by societal expectations weighing heavily on his shoulders. He recalled the words of his father, reminding him of integrity, dignity, and community support. Standing up for Sarah could feel like a rebellion against the town that had raised him. But he wondered, what was love if it couldn't bridge such divides? As lightning burst across the sky, he faced a choice: to hide away in shame or to stand up against the storm gathering in the hearts of the townsfolk. Determined to defend his integrity, Jacob took a deep breath, gripping Sarah's hand once more. Together, they would challenge the notion that status defined worth. Would the town see beyond their judgments? Or would the storm brewing around them swallow everything whole? As rain poured harder, a new storm was brewing, not just in the skies above but within the fabric of their community, and it was about to change everything. The rain continued to lash down, blurring the horizon as Jacob and Sarah stood hand in hand, bracing against the winds of judgment. The townsfolk had gathered at the edge of the trail, their whispers mingling with the howling wind, but Jacob refused to turn away. "We didn't ask for this," he said, taking a step forward, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "But here we are, together." Sarah looked at him, her eyes wide with both fear and admiration. She felt as though she had stepped into a whirlwind. "What if they don't understand?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the storm. They won tea, Jacob replied. But we can't let them dictate who we are. Momentarily, a silence fell over the crowd. Some exchanged glances, uncertain. Others muttered, believing that Jacob was just a foolish farmer playing with fire. Sarah felt a sudden urge to throw herself into Jacob's defense. "I'm not a victim," she called out, her voice ringing clear. "And Jacob didn't save me for glory. He simply did what was right." Yet, that declaration landed like a stone in a still pond. The ripples of discontent spread wider among the townsfolk. One man, his face drawn and weary, stepped forward. "You don't belong here, Sarah." "And him?" "He's just looking for a way out of his life." Jacob's heart raced. Daring to raise his voice above the raucous winds, he said, "I've worked tirelessly for what I have. I've fought to keep my family together." Helping Sarah had nothing to do with status. Several faces softened, but the hard lines of others remained. The storm above mirrored the turmoil below, a volatile mix of emotions, a brewing conflict between old prejudices and the senselessness of it all. Jacob leaned closer to Sarah, their connection solidified in this fraught moment. He could feel the warmth of her presence. In the eye of the storm, he found strength. "Maybe love doesn't care about class or status," he said, looking toward the crowd. "Maybe, just maybe, it's about helping one another." A murmur spread through the townsfolk, the wind carrying faint words of uncertainty. "But she's from the other side of town," and in that instant, Jacob's chest tightened. Could this divide be too deep? Suddenly, an elderly woman from the back of the crowd spoke up, her voice raspy but clear. "I raised him," she said, pointing to Jacob. "He's one of the finest boys I've ever known. If he has taken a stand, then we could all learn something. Not everyone from the other side is bad." The word struck a chord. It was a crack in the facade of judgment. Skepticism flickered like a candle in the wind, battling hard against the storm. Sarah looked at Jacob, fear giving way to hope, as if a path to understanding was opening before them, but just as tension seemed to ease, a loud crack of thunder echoed. The skies split open, and with it, shadows of doubt loomed larger. Jacob felt a wave of resolve wash over him. "We stand together, or we fall apart. We can choose to embrace each other. Or we can let fear win." Written on the faces around them were the paintings of acceptance and fear, painted against a backdrop of rain. Could it be possible to break the chains of prejudice? As the storm raged, one question lingered in the air like the hot breath before a firestorm: would their community rise or fall as they confronted the truth behind their shared hearts? This moment would set the stage for something completely unexpected. What revelations lay hidden in the hearts of the townsfolk, waiting to be uncovered? The wind howled fiercely, carrying the tension that crackled through the crowd. Sarah could see a few townsfolk beginning to shift uncomfortably, their expressions changing as they absorbed Jacob's words. She wanted to believe there was a spark of hope there, a chance for acceptance, but doubt clawed at her heart. Just then, the elderly woman who had spoken before took a step forward, fists clenched. "You all have forgotten," she cried, her voice rising with the wind. "We were all strangers once, and we all needed help at some point." Her brow furrowed as she looked over the crowd, her eyes fierce with conviction. "Have you forgotten what it was like to need a neighbor? To feel alone?" The crowd shifted again. Jacob's heart raced as he watched this unexpected ally. He felt a glimmer of hope light up within him. Sarah squeezed his hand tighter, anchoring him with her presence. He could feel her heartbeat steady, a reminder of why they were here, together. "Sarah is not just from the other side of town," Jacob declared, looking directly at the gathering. "She is a part of our community now, and we need to remember the strength that comes from unity, not division." Murmurs of agreement began to ripple through the crowd. Jacob couldn't tell if they were heartfelt or merely a reaction to the storm, but he pressed on, fueled by the surge of emotion brewing within him. "When I helped Sarah, I didn't think about where she came from. I just knew she needed help, and that's what matters. But then, a man stepped forward, a figure well known throughout the town, with a sharp gaze and a reputation for being unyielding. "Things don't change overnight, Jacob," he sneered. "You think that just because you want it to be true, it will be? This is how it's always been." His words landed like bricks, and the hope that had been building faltered for a second. But Jacob stood tall, determination coming up inside him like a tide. "Maybe some things are worth changing." He shot back, feeling fury ignite in his chest. "Fear has kept us apart long enough. What if we stepped into the storm together?" The man hesitated, shadows flickering across his hardened features. A moment passed, heavy with potential. Perhaps in that stormy night, through both the tumult of nature and emotion, something new was stirring. And then, Sarah found her voice again. "What will it take for you to see us instead of them? When will we choose kindness instead of fear?" She spoke with a clarity that cut through the chaos, her eyes searching the crowd for any ally. A moment of silence fell as her plea echoed in the air. People shifted nervously, exchanging looks that spoke more than words. It was as if the storm itself had paused, allowing those whispers of hope to surface. "I know things aren't easy," she continued, "but if we can work together, if we can open our hearts, maybe there is something greater waiting for us on the other side." And right then, Jacob's heart raced, filled with something he hadn't felt in a long time, belief. He glanced around, willing others to feel it too. Acceptance. Understanding. Slowly, cautiously, a few faces began to show signs of softening. The woman who had first spoken stood a little taller, nodding in silent agreement. Jacob could sense a shift, a slow turning of the tide. But as others joined their ranks, a loud clap of thunder reverberated through the air, almost as if nature itself was warning them. Shadows of doubt still loomed large. Jacob knew they weren't out of danger yet. "Now, it's not just our words," he said, voice steady, "but our actions that matter." As Jacob and Sarah faced the crowd, hearts clashing against old biases and their own fears, the rain continued to pour. Thunder rumbled ominously above, but what would the storm unearth? Which hearts would still remain closed as the winds of change blew? A pause hung in the air, thick with tension, and the question remained, would they unite or tear each other apart? Would Jacob and Sarah's courage be enough to inspire courage in others? The downpour intensified, drenching the faces of the townsfolk, but still, they stood frozen, caught in the storm of change. Jacob's heart pounded louder than the rain. He glanced at Sarah, her expression a mix of hope and fear. What if this was their moment? What if everything they fought for depended on this very minute? The man who had challenged Jacob shifted, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Jacob felt the weight of his gaze, as if the entire crowd was waiting for him to break the tension. He inhaled deeply, the damp air filling his lungs, a reminder of the life around them. "If we're going to do this, we need to step forward together," he urged. "Those who remain behind will only hold us back. Let us take the first step into the unknown." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some faces softened further, while others remained stone-cold. Jacob could sense a fragile thread of unity beginning to weave amongst the townsfolk. "I, for one, choose to see what is possible," the elderly woman called out, her voice stronger now, weathered hands raised as if calling forth the storm. "I've lived a long time, and I've seen fear grip this town, but I've also seen courage. We can warm each other's hearts if only we let the light in." The man who had challenged them clenched his jaw, and for a moment, Jacob worried he would throw his weight back into the fray. But instead, the man simply stared, as if searching his own soul for the answers. "It's not just about words," he muttered, almost to himself. "What actions have we taken?" Another clap of thunder echoed, but it only fueled the crowd. "We create our future," Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the surging wind. "Let us form committees, let us help each other rebuild. If I can find my way here, then we can build bridges among ourselves." It was like the last nail in the coffin of doubt. People began to shift, some nodding in agreement, others whispering among themselves. It was clear that fear still held many of them, but it was beginning to fracture. Jacob felt a rush of warmth fill him. This was at a moment of choice. He took a small step forward, heart racing, and extended his hand toward the man who had initially opposed him. "What do you say? Can we start this journey together?" The crowd collectively held its breath as the man regarded Jacob's outstretched hand. The storm raged behind them, but a new storm, a storm of change, began to brew in the hearts of the people. Slowly, he stepped forward, extending his own hand. "Let us see what's on the other side," he said, his voice barely a whisper above the chaos. A gasp rippled through the gathering, an electric charge, momentarily silencing the storm. Jacob felt Sarah's grip tighten, and in that shared moment, they all knew something incredible was happening. People began to step forward, one after another, joining hands, forming a human chain against the chaos, but just as hope flickered brighter, more thunder boomed, this time sounding more dangerous than before. A flash lit the sky, it seemed like the heavens themselves were watching. Jacob's heart sank slightly. "What if we fail?" Came a voice from the back, a question that struck more nerves than any had expected. Jacob looked into Sarah's eyes, searching for the resolve they had shared. "What if we succeed?" he countered, though a hint of doubt gnawed at him. As the crowd leaned in, united yet uncertain, Jacob felt the pressure of their collective fears and desires. Would they truly come together, or would uncertainty pull them apart once again? With that lingering question, a feeling of urgency and hope clenched in their throats, they stood poised on the precipice of change, waiting for the next strike of lightning to reveal their path forward. Would darkness swallow them whole, or would they find the courage to rise above? As the storm raged, the electricity in the air was palpable. Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that they stood at a significant crossroads. With the rain drumming on the ground, he squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, intertwining their fingers in a silent promise to face whatever came next together. The man who had challenged him, now beside Jacob, looked out at the crowd. His eyes shone with uncharacteristic resolve. "I've spent too long doubting this town," he admitted, breaking the silence. "I don't want to be that person anymore. Let us show our children that courage is the answer." Encouraged by his words, more townsfolk stepped forward, their faces canvassed with determination. Jacob watched a young mother hold her child close, her eyes fierce with protectiveness. A small spark ignited in Jacob's chest. This was their moment to show the community what they were made of. "Let South make this place better," Sarah called out, her voice breaking through the storm. "If we band together, we can build something beautiful, a town where love outshines fear. Where our children will thrive, not just survive." Another clap of thunder rolled, but it only intensified their resolve. The crowd, with hands clasped together, felt the connection deepen. Faces that had once been averted now turned toward one another. Fear transformed into hope, radiating like the sun trying to break through the heavy clouds. Jacob cleared his throat. "Remember that time we all helped Mrs. Whitaker after her barn burned down? We didn't hesitate. We gathered supplies, we cooked meals, and we stood by her side. We can do that again, we can do it for each other." The memory echoed through the crowd. Murmurs of agreement rippled like waves, washing over the fear that had held them captive for too long. People nodded, remembering how they had come together to lift one another when times got tough. "All I need is a chance," shouted a teenage boy from the back, his voice cracking with emotion. "A chance to feel safe here. A chance to be proud of this town." That sentiment scratched at something deep within Jacob. As he looked around, he saw a tapestry of faces filled with shared hope. This was not just about building a better town, it was about rebuilding trust, weaving bonds that could never be undone. The thunder rolled again, but this time it sounded as if it were applauding them, cheering on their newfound determination. "We will act, not just talk," the elderly woman said again, her eyes gleaming with a light that had been hidden for far too long. "Let us plant seeds of change today. Let us open our hearts wide and push back against the darkness." The crowd erupted in applause, the sound echoing above the storm. There was exhilaration now, an understanding that they were on their way to something meaningful. Laughter replaced nervousness, and excitement mixed with the patter of rain, yet just as hope swelled, a fierce bolt of lightning split the sky above them, illuminating the faces of the townsfolk. The tempest mirrored the emotions swirling in Jacob's heart. What will become of us? He thought with a mix of excitement and anxiety that in that split second, every face turned skyward. Would the storm menace their newfound unity or clear the way for a fresh start? As rain trickled down, Jacob wondered if they were about to step into a brighter future or if they were merely tempests in a teacup, great expectations teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Standing there, heart pounding, he realized that confronting their doubts was inevitable. Could they foster the courage needed to build a better tomorrow? With a mix of anticipation and trepidation, the crowd awaited a signal, a guide to show them what came next. The rain began to subside, transforming the chaotic downpour into a gentle patter. As the rushing torrent softened, silence cloaked the crowd, a blanket of shared breath and anticipation settling over them. Jacob felt a heaviness lift, replaced by a surge of energy that flowed from person to person. It was as if the storm had washed away not just the rain, but also the doubts that clung so heavily to their hearts. "Look," a woman shouted, pointing to the horizon. A bright sliver of sunlight pierced through the dark clouds, as if the universe was acknowledging their stand. Jacob turned, feeling warmth wrap around him, infusing the air with an electric vibe. He could see it now, hope peeking through the gloom. "Don't you see? We can't just let the storm define us." Jacob spoke, the words spilling out with conviction. "What we're doing here today is more than just promises, it's a commitment. Together, we can forge the path forward." The townspeople cheered, their voices rising above the fading rumble of thunder. Each affirmation echoed off the wet ground, the sound pounding with fierce solidarity. Jacob's heart expanded, pulling Sarah close as he thought about the future they could craft together. Laughter erupted unbidden, brightening the air like flashes of lightning, encouraged by every voice. Another man, a local farmer, known for his shy demeanor, stepped forward. "I might not have much, but I want to help. I can lend my land, turn it into a community garden where we can plant and grow side by side. We could share the harvest, create something tangible. We can unite over food, and there's nothing that brings people together like a meal." The crowd exploded with claps and cheers. A garden. What a beautiful symbol of their unity. Children giggled, and even the elderly nodded in approval. Jacob felt invincible. The simple gesture ignited a blaze of ideas in his heart, each one brighter than the last. Sarah's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, mirroring his own joy, yet doubt still lingered, like shadows creeping just at the edge of their newfound light. Could they truly make lasting change? Jacob turned to Sarah. "Do you think this is really going to work?" he asked, his voice low enough for only her to hear. She placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "It has to. This is a beginning, Jacob. We have to believe in the power of togetherness. The storm will pass, it's up to us to rebuild now." With renewed purpose, Jacob raised his voice once more. "Let us set a date. A day to bring everyone together to start this garden. Let us make it a celebration, not just a chance to work, but a chance to play, to connect." "Yes." The crowd roared, voices overlapping in an enthusiastic agreement that echoed through the clearing. Plans began to form rapidly as people spoke up, offering their skills and ideas. Suddenly, a disheveled figure burst from the fringes of the crowd, breathless and wide-eyed. It was Thomas, a boy who had disappeared for days, his family looking for him everywhere. The air shifted, tension spiking as the crowd fell silent again, an invisible thread of anxiety binding them. "Thomas!" Jacob called, rushing forward. "Are you okay?" The boy nodded, but there was something heavy in his gaze. "You won't believe what I found, the old shed by the path." His voice quivered with urgency. "There's something in there that could change everything for us. I think you need to see it." The excitement of their plans shrank back, replaced by a thrilling reverberation of fear and curiosity. Jacob exchanged glances with Sarah, both sensing a profound shift was about to occur. "What do you mean? What did you see?" Jacob pressed, pulse racing. With a breath that felt like the calm before the storm, Thomas took a step forward, his eyes wide and serious. It's about the recent disappearances, and a secret that could change our town forever." Jacob's heart sank, a whirlwind of emotions rising up like the storm clouds once again. Would this discovery rebuild them, or tear them apart? Jacob's heart raced as Thomas's words hung in the air. A chill crept down his spine, tightening his grip on Sarah's hand. The crowd, which had just lifted their spirits in unison, now shifted uncomfortably. Whispers began to ripple through it, like the faint crackle of static before a storm. "What do you mean, a secret?" Jacob asked, fear intermingled with a desperate curiosity. The boy took a shaky breath, glancing around, as if the trees themselves were straining to listen. "I wasn't alone when I found it," Thomas started, eyes darting. "There were pictures. Notes. Things left behind by the people who went missing. And a door locked tight inside the shed. I heard something, Jacob, something about a connection to all of this." He pointed towards the center of town where some of the loved ones of the missing had gathered, still searching, still hoping. A murmur spread through the crowd, a swelling wave of dread. How could they focus on gardens and planting when this darkness lingered within their very community? Jacob could feel Sarah's concern beam at him, her grip on him tightening as if to ground him against the growing storm of emotion. "Thomas," Jacob replied, choosing his words carefully, "if what you found is dangerous, we need to handle it together. But we can't dive in blind. Can you take us to this shed?" Thomas nodded, determination replacing his earlier trepidation. "Yes, I can, but we should be careful. I can't shake the feeling that someone else has been there before." Jacob looked around at the faces brimming with hope only moments before. There was an invisible weight pressing down, a reality they couldn't ignore. Trust mingled with thinly veiled fear. "If we're going to face this together, we need to stick to the plan. Let us talk about our garden, but we'll make room for this investigation." The crowd hushed. It was a delicate balance between unity and fear, but it was a decision they had to make together. "All right," Jacob continued, "who else with us?" Hands shot up, some eager, others hesitant. The town had endured so much. Not only weathering storms but also the nagging absence of those they loved. They now stood at a crossroads where hope and fear intertwined. "We'll create a garden, yes, but we will also uncover the truth about what happened to our friends and families. They deserve that much." The crowd rallied around him, their energy returning like the sun breaking through clouds after the rain. Led by Thomas, they made their way to the old path that wound through the edge of town. The sun began to glimmer brighter, yet shadows danced around them as if the very trees were whispering secrets. The closer they got to that shed, the more Jacob's heart thumped against his chest, each beat echoing a mix of anticipation and dread. Finally, they reached the site, an unremarkable old wooden shed that stood stooped and neglected. Thomas pushed open the creaky door, revealing an interior cloaked in darkness. Jacob squinted, scanning the room, heart pounding harder. All their hopes for safety felt perilously close to unraveling in an instant. "Is it in here?" Jacob whispered, his voice barely breaking above the sound of their collective breaths. In the dim light, shadows shifted and danced, revealing something that sent shivers down his spine, a wooden box sitting prominently near the wall. I think this is what I found," Thomas said, stepping in cautiously, the air charged with tension. With trembling hands, Jacob approached the box. What lay inside could change everything they believed. Would he uncover the truth that could either heal or destroy their fragile bonds forever? As he lifted the lid, the unease settled deeper. It was time to uncover secrets long buried, but were they ready for what lay within? Jacob's hands trembled slightly as he lifted the lid of the wooden box. The air around them felt electric, charged with the weight of their unasked questions. An anxious silence fell over the group as they leaned in closer. Inside the box, nestled among tattered pieces of paper and faded photographs, lay a small journal, its leather cover cracked and weathered. "What is it?" Sarah asked, her voice breaking through the thick stillness. Jacob carefully reached in, pulling out the journal as if it were made of glass. The pages were a little yellowed, and he could see hand-drawn sketches swirling across the paper alongside hastily written notes. The handwriting was messy but filled with emotion, and as he flipped through the pages, he caught snippets of thoughts and fears, entries from someone lost. "They're watching. I can feel them," Jacob read aloud, the words barely came out as a whisper. "What does that mean?" Thomas stepped closer, his brow knitted with concern. I think it could be from someone who vanished. Whoever was here before might have known more than any of us." Jacob swallowed hard. The thought made his stomach churn. What if it connects to those who are missing? "We have to keep looking," he urged. His heart felt like it was lodged in his throat, each beat resonating with the collective anxiety surrounding them. That he continued to read snippets. "The closed door in the shed, it hides what we cannot see." With every word, a knot of anxiety tightened in his chest. It was becoming clear, this was more than just a simple journal. It was a warning. The whispers among the crowd rose, an undercurrent of fear melding with curiosity. Faces shifted from interest to alarm, the memories of their loved ones now flooding back. Jacob glanced at Sarah, her wide eyes mirrored his own rising dread. "Listen," he said, raising his voice to gather the crowd's attention, "we can't ignore this. We owe it to the people who have vanished. If this could help us understand what really happened, we need to explore this further." Thomas nodded vigorously. "We should find out more about the sketches. They seem like maps or something. They might lead to where the others went." "Maps?" Sarah's voice trembled. "Are you saying there might be more places like this, hidden from us?" Jacob caught the escalating panic in her tone and quickly stepped in. "If we're careful, and if we work together, we can face whatever is out there. We can bring our people back. We can't let fear dictate our actions." With renewed determination, he flipped the next page. A drawing of a place emerged, an old house on the outskirts of town, eerily similar to one he remembered from his childhood. It sparked a flicker of recognition. "I know that place," Jacob said, excitement bubbling amidst the tension. "It used to belong to the Miller family. They left years ago." But it wasn't a normal departure. Rumors circulated around their disappearance. As if struck by a sudden realization, Thomas blurted, "What if they found something too? Maybe the answers are connected to this house and this journal." A collective resolve surged through the crowd. Jacob could see it in their faces, the glimmers of hope beginning to pierce through the fear. But deep down, one nagging question loomed large: could they truly face whatever awaited them at that long-abandoned house? "Let us go," Jacob finally said, gripping the journal tightly. "We have a path to follow. Together, we'll uncover the truth no matter what it takes." They left the shed, a scattering of hope igniting their steps. Shadows loomed behind them, but their courage pushed forward. As they made their way back through the forest path, the urgency of discovery became palpable. What mysteries lay ahead in the dark corners of their town, and would they even be prepared for the revelations waiting at the Miller house? The path to the Miller house was overgrown, wild vines and gnarled branches clawing at their clothes as they pushed forward. Jacob felt a mix of adrenaline and dread coursing through him. The journal felt heavy in his pocket, like a weight anchoring him to the truth. Each crunch of dead leaves beneath their feet blended into an echo of their racing hearts, the sounds whispering secrets that had long been buried. "Are you sure it's safe?" Sarah's voice broke the silence, laced with worry. Her eyes darted around as if shadows were bound to pounce at any moment. "We've come this far," Jacob reassured her, forcing a smile. "If there are clues to what happened to the Millers, we need to uncover them." Thomas pushed ahead, leading the group with an air of determination. "I can't shake the feeling that whatever this is, it's important. Maybe it's not just about the people we've lost, maybe it's about knowing what happened here." A chill skated down Jacob's spine. What did that mean, and where would this path lead them? As they reached a clearing, the house came into view. It was a shell of what it once was, paint peeling away like layers of memory, windows boarded up, creating a grim facade that held years of neglect. Yet, for Jacob, it was familiar, a place where laughter once echoed, now caught in a ghostly stillness. "Should we go in?" Thomas asked, glancing back at the group. Jacob nodded, heart racing. Each step to the door felt like walking toward a heavy storm cloud. As they approached, the door creaked ominously, as if it had been waiting for them for ages. He pushed it open, and the air inside was stale, filled with the scent of dust and old wood. "Look at these," Sarah murmured, stepping cautiously inside, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. She pointed to the wall covered in faded photographs, the Millers in happy moments, arms around one another, smiles frozen in time. Jacob picked up a frame, feeling the glass scratch against his fingertips. He turned it over. There were carefully written names on the back. James, Emily, and little Lily. What happened to them? Just then, a flash of movement caught his eye. A curtain fluttered, almost as if something gasped for air behind it. The tension thickened in the room, and he could feel the others' eyes on him, hearts pounding like a war drum. "Did you see that?" he whispered, adrenaline spiking through him. Thomas stepped closer, squinting towards the curtain. "Jacob, if there is something in here, we have to be smart about it." Taking a deep breath, Jacob slowly approached the curtain. With an unsteady hand, he pulled it aside and gasped, stumbling back as a small figure huddled in the corner. It was a girl, dirty and trembling, her eyes wide and haunted. "Help me," she whimpered, the plea cutting through the air, heavy with urgency. The reality shifted. They'd come searching for answers, but what lay before them was a thread of hope woven in desperation. Jacob's heart raced as he took a step toward her, feeling the weight of his decisions surge like a wave. "We're here to help," he said softly, crouching down to meet her gaze, but as he reached out, the room trembled with an unseen force, and he could feel the shadows looming heavier around them. The weight of the past pressed hard against their shoulders. What had they truly uncovered, and were they ready for the depths of what lay ahead? As the girl's eyes locked onto his, Jacob realized this was only the beginning. What more did this house hold? What would they discover next? Jacob's heart raced as he stared at the girl huddled in the corner, fear flickering in her wide eyes. The reality around him sharpened. They had come to uncover secrets, but now, they faced something far more tangible. "We're here to help," he murmured again, reaching out slowly as if she were a wild animal, ready to bolt. Are you real?" she whispered, the tremor in her voice striking a nerve deep inside Jacob. "Yes," he assured her, kneeling lower. "You're safe now." Behind him, Sarah and Thomas stepped closer, their fear replaced by a burning concern. "What is your name?" Sarah asked gently, eyes softening in the dim light. "Lily," the girl responded, glancing nervously at the shadows around them, as if they might spring to life at any moment. "I was lost for so long." "Lily? Is there anyone else with you?" Jacob asked, his heart pounding. The urgency of the moment shifted from curiosity to something deeper, protection. "No, they took everything." Her voice cracked, and Jacob's blood ran cold. "You have to leave." Before she could finish, a deafening crash came from the back of the house. Jacob jumped to his feet, instinctual fear coursing through him. The shadows in the room felt darker, as if they were alive, creeping closer. "Stay here," he ordered, though he was already moving toward the noise. Caught between dread and the instinct to protect, he pushed cautiously past old furniture, each step heavier than the last. Thomas was right behind him, his expression a mixture of determination and fear. "We can't leave her," he whispered, a plea that hung in the air. "No, we want tea. We'll find whoever or whatever is in here and keep her safe." Jacob vowed, adrenaline surging. They reached the back room where the sound had come from. A heavy wooden door lay ajar, creaking ominously in the draft. With a deep breath, Jacob kicked it open, the door swinging wide to reveal nothing but the remnants of years gone by. Dust floated lazily in the air, suspended like memories crystallized in time. Empty shelves lined the walls, littered with forgotten relics of the past. But then, from a corner, a voice echoed, deep and unfamiliar. "You shouldn't be here." Jacob's stomach sank. "Who's there?" he called, hoping to sound braver than he felt. Silence followed, thick and oppressive. Then a figure stepped into the light, a man, disheveled and wild-eyed, with dirt smeared across his face. The deep lines etched into his skin told a story of suffering. "I was warning you," he said, his voice gravelly and hoarse. "But it's too late." Jacob and Thomas exchanged glances, uncertainty creeping in like the shadows. "Why are you here?" Jacob demanded, standing firm against the stranger. "I know what you seek," the man hissed, taking a step closer. "But it's dangerous. You're not prepared for the truth. The girls, the Millers. What do you know about them?" Jacob pressed, grasping for control over the spiraling chaos of the moment. "They found out something that should have remained buried. A darkness this town feeds on." The words hung in the air, chilling Jacob to his core. Sarah, still with Lily in the other room, must have felt the tension radiating off him. "We have to go back to her," Jacob said urgently, moving to pull Thomas with him. As they turned, the man grabbed Jacob's arm, his grip vice-like. "If you leave her, the darkness will consume you all. You need to face it together." His words struck deep into Jacob's resolve. This wasn't just about finding answers anymore, it was about protecting Lily and unearthing whatever horrible truth lay hidden in their town. Together, Jacob echoed, determination swelling within him. "What do we need to do?" "Find the old dreams," the man urged. "Those lost to the dark have left threads behind. You can't fight it directly, but you can confront its origin." "What does that even mean?" Thomas asked, confusion mixing with fear. "It means going into the memories. Into where it all began." As Jacob considered what this meant, the weight of the journal in his pocket and Lily's tear-streaked face flooded his heart with fire. "We won't let fear dictate us," he declared, feeling solidarity with the girl they had only just met, yet who symbolized hope and resilience. In a moment of clarity, he realized that fear could either bind them or set them free. "We will face whatever darkness this town holds. Together. For Lily, for the missing, and for every single one of us." The man's grip softened, understanding cracking the facade of his wildness. "Then gather everyone," he said, urgency rising in his voice. "This can't be just you. It has to be the whole town. Only as a community can you break the chain." With newfound purpose, Jacob and Thomas headed back to where Sarah and Lily waited. The storm outside had begun to still, as if echoing the change within them. Jacob's heart beat in unison with the rhythm of hope. "Lily, we're here to help," he said, kneeling down as their eyes met once more. "But we need to gather everyone. We have a plan." Tears glistened in her eyes, but this time, they held the promise of change. "What is it?" she asked, a spark ignited within her. "We confront this darkness together. We will unveil the truth, and we won't turn back." As they stepped out of the house, the sky opened slightly, the last remnants of rain glistening in the sunlight. Jacob felt that today could mark the beginning of something incredibly powerful, a community rising from the ashes. He took a deep breath, steeling himself as they made their way back to town. There would be challenges ahead, tests of courage and unity. But they would face it all together, transforming fear into resolve, darkness into light. "Let us go," Jacob urged, gripping Lily's hand with assurance. "It's time the world saw who we really are." And in that moment, he knew this was not just about uncovering secrets, it was about forging a bond that would last a lifetime, a bond tested by storms and trials but rooted in community and love. Together, they would emerge victorious. Now, it's up to us to rise for this story of resilience. Let us connect, because change begins with you. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that could change lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. The more support we show, the more lives we can touch. Comment below with your feelings about this gripping ending. We want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and spread hope across the community. Don't wait not even one more second.